fellow commission members, staff members. We have our chief counsel with us today and guest. The date is Friday, May the 15th at approximately 9:30 a.m. I'm Minnie Ann Lane, your commission chairman. I'll now call to order the meeting of the Tennessee Private Investigation and Polygraph Commission. I'd like to request that our executive director, Cody Vest, call the roll and verify a quorum, please.
Thank you. David Brown,
Here.
Larry Flair,
Here, ma'am.
David Horton, Rick Jones,
Here.
Minnie Lane,
Here.
Jerry Richards,
Here.
Dr. Rich,
Here.
Alan Russo,
Here.
Walt Valentine. Let the record show that David Horton's not here, but you do have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I'll ask each of the commission members if they've received and reviewed a copy of the agenda. And if there's a, okay. And if there's a motion to adopt the agenda.
So move.
Second.
Motion to adopt the agenda was made by Commissioner Rich and Commissioner Brown. Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Now, if each of the commission members has reviewed the minutes of the February 27th, 2015 commission meeting, I'll ask if there's a motion to approve these minutes as they are presented.
I'll make that motion, Madam Chairman.
I'll second it.
Who made the motion? I'm sorry.
I did. Flair.
Okay, Commissioner Flair made the motion, and Commissioner Valentine seconded that. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. At this point on the agenda, we have the legal report, followed by fingerprint and rule review, and that'll be under Exhibit A, and I'm going to respectfully request that Chief Counsel Anthony Glandorf handle these items if he would.
Good morning. Thank you. My name is Tony Glandorf. I'm the Chief Counsel for the Regulatory Boards. Thank you for having me here this morning. We do not have a legal report for complaints to provide to you today. We only have one current complaint that's in the system that'll be presented to you all for the next meeting. So I have none. I do not have a legal report to provide to you today. What I do have for the next item is the fingerprinting rules review, if you are ready to look at that. And I can give you an overview of these rules. I provided you with a documentation from the Secretary of State's office, which is entitled Proposed Rules. And what I'm presenting to you today is my recommendation for a set of rules to be adopted by this commission. These rules would change the procedures in which applicants would be providing fingerprints to the commission upon application. The need for this change is because in March of 2015, our department was notified from the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation that they were no longer be accepting paper fingerprint cards from agencies such as the Department of Commerce and Insurance for the purposes of processing those for applications for our applicants. And they, in their memorandum, basically stated to that we could use a private third-party servicer in order to do that for them. So up until this time, my understanding is that the program will receive those physical cards and process and send those into the TBI. So the issue is now being is that we would like to have those electronic fingerprints to be submitted by the applicants when they're applying for licensure now. So this rule would change the requirement so that the requirement is not that they must provide 3 fingerprint cards, but they shall provide electronic fingerprints, and they can use that through the third-party provider. When looking at this, we determined that there would probably be a cost savings to the applicant. I believe the third-party provider is $38, whereas the current processing fee is $60, so there should be a savings of $22 for that amount right there. And I will go through these rules for you, but the changes were just if you turn to the second page, page 2, that is the rule. It's 1175-01-.03. And you can see that we've deleted out the language that talks and makes reference to 3 sets of classifiable classifiable fingerprints. And we have substituted instead language that indicates that they shall make arrangements for the processing of their fingerprints with a company contracted by the state. And then what we did leave in there was the option that if somebody for a very unknown instance could not obtain a classifiable electronic fingerprint, that at the discretion of the commission, they could provide physical fingerprint cards to this commission, and then the board would process those physical cards into electronic fingerprints on their behalf for the normal fee. So we left it open for an unknown circumstance. Do you all have any questions regarding the substance of the rule change?
Got one real quick one.
Yeah.
Tony, is this going to affect any of certain vendors? I mean, or certain other vendors? There's not just one or two in the state. There's several across our state that can do this electronically. How many? Won't have any effect on any of that. If they are under if they've been qualified to do it already, then
There is only one in the state of Tennessee that has been approved by the states through the TBI, and that is Morpho Trust. It's a very large company in the United States, but that's the only one that has the contract right now. And as the contract may change, that's the verbiage in here, we can automatically just go to that company. Whoever the TBI tells us we're sending them to, that's who we will send them to. But there's only one vendor. That
They
answers
have,
your question.
where are their offices located?
Their contract reads that they will be 50-mile radius of any individual to be fingerprinted. They have an office in Franklin. We send print cards that we do ourselves in the office to Illinois. Then they have another location, the main office is in California. So they're all over the United States.
If you all do not have any further questions, I'd like to draw your attention to page 6 of the document that I provided to you, and this is on the back end of the rules, and it's entitled Regulatory Flexibility Addendum. This addendum asks a series of approximately 13 questions that are statutorily required that this commission look at and adopt. I have provided with you all a guide answer for these rules. When going through there, they have specific questions, and I will go through these with you. And some of these, there are questions that we have to answer, but they generally just don't apply as to what we're doing in the rule. But the first ones I'll go through. It requires us to make a determination whether there's overlap, duplication, or conflict with any federal, state, or local governmental rules. We looked at those, and we are indicating that there are no overlap, duplication, or conflict. The second question is regarding clarity, conciseness, and the lack of ambiguity. And in there, as we've written it, we don't believe that there is a lack of clarity, conciseness, or that there is ambiguity. Flexible compliance with this rule, question number 3. The amended rule creates less discretionary requirements for the submission of fingerprints by the electronic means. However, we put in there, it does have, the commission can allow for those physical fingerprint cards, as we indicated in the rule earlier, so that there is a mechanism by which they can do that if they cannot get the electronic ones for whatever reason. Friendly schedules or deadlines with compliance. There's no variation for these requirements for anybody in Tennessee. A consolidation and simplification of compliance. And what we've added in there as the answer, the response is that these amendments address the requirement for obtaining electronic fingerprints, and it simplifies the requirement so that people can more easily obtain these through third-party vendors. Performance standards is question number 6. This rule does not address performance standards. And question number 7 is unnecessary creation of entry barriers. We're not really actually creating a barrier. This was already a requirement to provide fingerprints. This is actually a less cost, so it's actually should decrease barriers for applications, given that the $60 fee would be going down to $38, a savings of approximately $22 for individuals. If you turn to page number 7, there are 6 questions regarding economic impact statement. These are statutorily required to be answered. And the first question is the types of small businesses that we would affect. This would affect any business operating. I'm sorry, if that says alarm systems company, I'm gonna I'm gonna cross that word out. Those 3 words. I apologize for that. I think yours says that. Yeah. These rules are carried over actually to Alarm Systems Contractor Board also. I'm going to take that and change that out. Anybody seeking private investigations license. Reporting and record keeping. It would only be a cost of travel in order to get those fingerprints. Probable effect on small businesses. It would potentially decrease the cost because it would be a savings. But would do that through the private vendor by using that method. Questions number 4 and 5. There's not a less burdensome way that we can do this rule. It actually is. We are now going to be required to change the way that we actually process those fingerprints. There's not a federal counterpart to this rule, and the effect of possible exemptions from small businesses, because it's required. We cannot make an exemption for any of the small businesses. So I've noted that one change on page 7. Page 8, if you would turn to that page, impact on local governments, is a requirement that we address it, whether or not this will have impact on local governments. And these are not the type of rules that would impact a local government or require a local government to do something or take away discretion of local government. So as such, we've indicated that there's no expected impact on the local government there. So the next page is page 9. This is additional information that's required by the Joint Government Operations Committee. And just to explain, this is the committee that we would take this rule to. Once this rule would be passed and prior to its effectiveness, we would go up to the legislature, to their committee, and explain the rules to them. And basically, if you go all the way from page 9 and 10, all that we basically said is a brief recap of what I've told you, which is the TBI has set this memorandum indicating that they will no longer take the paper fingerprint cards, and these rules are to create that electronic fingerprint, and how we're going to do that. And then a lot of these questions are similar to the ones that we've already answered. There's no known opinions from the Attorney General's office regarding this. Regarding local government revenues or expenditures, there's no known probable increase or decrease of expenditures. Ask what type licensees would this affect? These are private investigator licensees. And on the bottom of page 10, it is additional information, and I have basically just summarized the memorandum from the TBI so that it's very clear that this is being done because the TBI has changed their method in which they are processing the fingerprints. Do you all have any questions regarding what I've just gone over with you all?
Appreciative of the flexibility addendum that you've added in here. I've not seen that before because that really helps explain the impact statement we have to make.
And Mr. Glandorf, I assume that the flexibility addendum is state mandated also?
Yes, sir, it is. It's it actually on page 6 at the top. It shows
Yes.
It shows those Tennessee codes that requires it. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Questions or comment?
If not, if you all would incline to take a motion for a roll call vote on these rules, then that would be the only thing that I would need before I start processing these. And just to let you all know the process by which these rules happen, these are proposed rules. A couple years ago, the legislature has changed the nature in which that boards and commissions can adopt rules, and these proposed rules are intended to be non-controversial, non-contentious rules. And as such, once I'm finished processing them and they're signed by the Attorney General's office, we will file them with the Secretary of State's office. These rules will be effective 90 days after filing from the Secretary of State's office. There will be no need for a public hearing on this to take comment or whatnot, unless somebody contacts the Secretary of State's office. Actually, it would require, at this point in time, 10 persons to contact and request a hearing, or it would be a professional organization with 10 members associated with it. So Other than, if not that, then we will just follow these rules, and 90 days later, they would be effective, and we will keep you up to date with them.
Madam Chairman, I'll make a motion that we have a roll call vote on.
Second that. Motion made by Commissioner Flowers, second by Commissioner Rousseau. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Right, ready.
David Brown,
Approve.
Larry Flair,
Aye, approved.
David Horton, Rick Jones,
Approve.
Minnie Lane,
Approve.
Jerry Richards,
Approve.
Dr. Rich,
Approve.
Alan Russo,
Approve.
Walt Valentine.
Approve.
Let the record show that there are 8 approvals and Mr. Horton is not present.
Thank you.
Thank you, and that concludes the legal report for the board, for the commission. Thank you.
Take a break here for about 10 minutes. 10-minute break.
No, I really appreciate.
This time I'll call the meeting back to order. Following our agenda, we now have administrative matters, and I'll call upon our Executive Director, Cody Vest, to handle this, please.
Thank you. If you would look at Exhibit B, Regulatory Board Discipline Action Reports, we have February, March, and April. Like always, we have all our programs there so you can see what your counterparts are doing in other programs. In February, you didn't have any activity. March, you didn't have any activity, but in April, there was some activity, and it totaled $750 if I added that correctly. You had unlicensed activity, and you had one who failed to give the termination notice within 30 days. Actually, who and what the penalty was for. And you could look at the other programs if you, when you get a few minutes or whatever, and see the type of things that we actually file complaints, especially with the alarm board, their private, the locksmith program too. They gotta put their identification on all their correspondence and automobiles and everything, but you can read through that. If you have any questions, yeah, you get that in advance anyway. If you have any questions, just stop me and we'll discuss it. Now we can move on to the monthly report that we do send out. And we do have it for February, March, and April. You get this in advance because usually it's kind of big to be. The only thing we do need to notice is on the Private Investigation Polygraph Commission, we do have the information concerning the fingerprint processing change, and Alan Russo's term is soon to expire. Was that December? Oh, it expired last September. You're still with us. Thank you.
Thank you for keeping me.
Mr. Russo or any commission member does continue to serve until the governor appoints. Not in any hurry. But you can take a look at that. This goes over the complaints again, the 180 clock stop in action, which we don't really have that many complaints in this program anymore. But it does give you an idea. We now have a county manager, Bill Huddleston, who is working closely with us on our fees, on our budget. Gives me the reports that we process now of a alarm contractors board sunset. So he is helping me with all those figures, which we appreciate. We have someone on board now that can do that. Next thing we're going to go to is the open complaint report. Now, if you notice, this morning, our chief counsel said we have one, and we do. on the report here, it does show 3. It shows the consent order's already been proposed, one's already been presented to you. One case had been sent to legal, that's still outstanding there. I believe we have one case that is actually going to investigation as well. But you don't have very much activity there. We got those so much under control now compared to what we did have in the past. And that was with some good attorneys. Right now, we still do not have an attorney, but hopefully by the next board meeting, we will. You'll be meeting in 3 more months. We should be in good standing. Next thing is going to be E, is the proposed Alabama reciprocal agreement. If you've had chance, you might not have had a chance to look over this. I'm gonna turn this over to Beth because she does the reciprocal agreements. She knows more about this and talk to you intelligently about this than I do. What it says, but I'm gonna let her go over it. Yeah.
Okay. We have discussed this in the past. Since Alabama enacted their licensing law, we were going to enter into just a license recognition agreement. And I've talked to their board director, and if you'll look at this agreement on this is our standard agreement we already have in place with Louisiana, Kentucky now, North Carolina, Virginia, Georgia, and Florida, and maybe 1 or 2 other states. However, all these agreements that we have already in place have a requirement that all individuals exempted under this agreement be affiliated with a properly licensed investigative agency, which is the way we've always operated because we require it and many other states require it. Alabama does not require it. They only license individuals. So the only reason that we haven't been able to move forward is the commission's gonna have to approve removing this caveat from this agreement and allow individual investigators to come in and out of Tennessee on a case that originates in Alabama, and we limited this one to 15 days per agency per case. Some states have already moved forward to a 30-day per agency per case agreement. We do not have any of those in place. However, just based on the differences in our laws, before we can move forward with this, the commission's gonna have to agree to make this amendment or it won't be applicable. And I know we had talked about this when they first developed their licensing law because our investigators wanna be able to go into Alabama.
We have a question over here about it, Mr. Richards.
Beth, when you say 15 days, you're not talking about 15 consecutive days, right?
It really doesn't matter. It's 15 days total
Per case.
per agency per case. Now, again, a lot of the states that we already have these 15-day agreements with have interacted and changed their agreements to 30 days. We haven't done that yet. But just to get this one in place, we're gonna have to take this out.
And where is that?
Well, if our only
It's on
problem.
page 2.
If our only problem is that they only have one license, could we not just put in here that unless the state only requires one license? Why do we
can
need
just
to
take
get
this
into the
paragraph out
days?
for this agreement. This is specifically for Alabama.
Only.
These agreements have to have the right laws in them. So
Right.
this is only applicable for the Alabama Private Investigator Licensing Board.
This is just their proposed.
This is what we
We
propose.
We proposed. Oh, okay, I got you now, okay.
However, before it can be sent to them to sign off on or agree to, we've got to agree to not require this.
Is it time for a motion?
Discussion right now.
Okay.
I want to make a motion and then we can get to the discussion.
Okay. I move that we exempt Alabama from Section 2A of our license recognition agreement.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Valentine, second by Commissioner Rousseau. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Is there any discussion?
One quick question, Madam Chairman.
Okay.
Alabama investigators are licensed and they are not affiliated with a PI business. They're individually licensed. And they're going to have 15 working days if it originates in Alabama and comes over to Tennessee, according to this right here. The Tennessee PIs still must be affiliated with a company, fall under our regular board our regular regulations, and they can go into Alabama for 15 days.
Yes.
That's the way it is right now. Okay.
That's provided it starts in Tennessee, has to originate
originate
the state.
Actually, it has to originate in your state of residence. This really wouldn't apply to some Tennessee licensee
Right.
that lives in Kentucky or a Tennessee licensee that lives in Arkansas. These are very carefully worded where it's a resident, sole proprietor, or individual from Tennessee. It doesn't broaden it out to anybody that's got a Tennessee license can come in or anybody that's, got an Alabama license that doesn't live there wouldn't be eligible under this agreement.
So if a Tennessee licensee lives in Kentucky, he does not have reciprocity with Alabama unless the state of Kentucky
Enters into an
enters into
agreement.
it with Alabama.
And he has a Kentucky license
And he has
also.
a Kentucky license also, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I have the original agreements that I'll get Minnie to sign, so I can go ahead and send them. Since y'all have adopted this, we'll get them sent today.
Other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. If we're back
All
to.
right, now, thank you, yes, that was now we're to F. What you have in front of you there is what they refer to as IASR, International Association of Security and Investigative Regulators. Their meeting's going to be held in New Orleans on November the 13th through the 15th, 2015. 11th through the 13th. What I said? Well, pardon me, I meant to say the 11th through the 13th. I was able to go to the one they had in Louisville. Our attorney also attended. It was very, very informative. This International Association does cover all our programs, the alarms, the locksmith, the private investigators, private protective services. One big topic of conversation was private investigators and the use of drones. We have not even mentioned that in these meetings. I have asked anybody who wants to attend can attend, but you have to sign up and you have to pay your own expenses to go. Any commission member is welcome to attend. Have to join as associate members. There's a little bit more requirements to that, but I'm just saying that all commission members are eligible to join. If you're crossing over into another profession, I don't know, maybe it's security guard section or maybe it's the locksmith or whatever, this is very, very informative. It is the directors, attorneys. We did have a commissioner with us at the time. They have about, I believe it was 38 states. I'm not quite sure. All 52 states are not members, but they're doing the best to try to get all the states to go into agreement with them. But they help do federal regulation. If we had any federal regulation that we wanted to take a look at and need assistance with helping pass, this is one of the places. Very, very informative. I didn't realize that drones were such a hot topic. Our industries are changing. Our alarm industry is changing. Private investigations are changing. Private investigators, without knowing the proper way to say this, but are dying out. they're not renewing because literally, this is an older profession. The new people that are coming into the profession are very computer literate. That's the word. And they can do a lot of stuff on their computer. With drones, there won't be any need for you to go out there probably and sit in your car and watch Mary Jane come out of McDonald's. With the alarm industry, everything can be done, practically everything can be done on an iPhone. You can set up your own camera in your house. You can connect it to your telephone. Whenever the alarm goes off, you can call 911 yourself. Changes the industry altogether. So I'm just trying to explain to you, I like to go to these type of meetings so I can find out what the future holds or looks like it's gonna hold for the professions. And drones are gonna actually be a big part of all professions.
But right now, drones are governed by the FAA.
If they fly over above 300 feet, you have, 500? Okay. You,
We have, for our TAI function that's, I'm Pat Riley, the chairman of the Tennessee Association of Investigators based in Memphis. Longtime private investigator, probably about 30 years in this area. Member of the TALPI and so forth. But we are putting on our CPE on the 24th of October. We've done some research on drones, which is going to be the probably the wave of the future in all kinds of businesses. Robert Hartline, who you may recall last 4th of July, flew a drone over the 4th of July fireworks celebration over the Cumberland River, posted a great deal of it. It was created big headlines on our local newscast. It was on YouTube and so forth. He is starting a drone training program, as is law enforcement. Norma Tillman at our meeting handed out some applications for law enforcement, specifically learning how to control these drones. It's for commercial use. It's going to be a bit of a process. For private individuals, you're probably going to be covered by your homeowner insurance in case something goes wrong. But if you're going to use it for any kind of commercial use, you're going to have to go through a training program, a ground school, which is almost similar to being a licensed private pilot. I'm a licensed private pilot, and it takes about 4 or 5 days just to learn the regulations, some certain basics of aerodynamics. When you actually get into the commercial application, for example, surveilling a neighborhood in areas where you can't get a clear view, overseeing traffic accidents, for example, being first on the scene with an aerial view, arson investigations so you can see it from an aerial point of view right away. If you're going to do it for commercial purposes, there are going to be insurance stipulations that we're going to have to be involved in. They have not yet been put into place. And there's going to be some requirements that cannot fly over 500 feet, for example. It has to be in line of sight. So those are the things we're going to have to be dealing with training implications, insurance implications, and understanding the basic FAA rules and regulations. The latest rules and regulations which came down from the FAA are not particularly stringent. You have to keep 5 miles away from an airport, for example, unless you have the ability to contact the control tower. In other words, you are going to be covered by essentially the same kinds of rules and regulations that you are as a private pilot, and you have to understand those. So that's going to be the basics of it, but we can't just jump into it. And you won't be able to subcontract. You won't be able to get some kid, for example, down the street to do an aerial overview of the neighborhood that you want to surveil and then pay him $25 and use the material, because if it goes into court, you're going to be held liable for anything that goes wrong. And anything could go wrong, obviously. They could be potentially quite dangerous. So we're in the cutting edge, but they are the future.
thank you. I appreciate that. But that's just to tell you that things are happening in your profession. And for us, certainly appreciate that, and we would love to have any commission member who would like to attend go with us. Yes, go ahead.
I don't know if y'all are aware of this or not, but the agreement we just reviewed actually All of our reciprocal and license recognition agreements were developed by ISR many years ago. But that's one of the key focuses is communicating between states and working together. But that's where these drafts of all these agreements came from. So,
Thank you. I think the next thing on the agenda is my budget review. I'm gonna give you the figures I have. These figures will not contain your cost backs, that's the expenditures that we have for the Commissioner's Office, Assistant Commissioner's Office. It will not contain legal or any investigations that legal has to do. This is, what I'm going to give you is the total for the revenue so far as of March that you have brought in, and the just normal expenditures that we have. If, the revenue totals, and I'm gonna leave the cents off, $150,329, 150,329. Your expenditures are 87,156. That leaves $63,173. This is through the end of March. I get one of these every month. Again, it does not contain any cost backs and does not contain any legal fees. We are, and I've talked at the last meeting, the state has implemented a new computer system, we call it. We're constantly in training classes and trying to get ready. It's going to, what I understand, the switch is going to be thrown in September. The new computer is here. What we may have in reserves that's going to be used for the new computer system. How much, I do not know. Hope they took the biggest chunk out already, but it depends actually. I don't know the formula of they use, but in the past they've used the number of licensees and how big your program is on that. But if you had any questions on the budget, you can talk with me. I'd be glad to help you with it. But that's just the totals. We've often talked about not having enough fees. We were down to 16,000, I believe it was, that we ended last year, and now I'm supposed to maintain at least 10%. But I made 10%, the difference between 16 and 26, but I didn't quite maintain that. But right now, we're holding our own. So I'm not going to recommend any fee increase.
Madam Chairman, if I may, Madam Director, if we want to do an increase or get more income, are we as a board allowed to do that, or is that something that we need to carry back to the Hill and goes to the legislative people, or can we do it here?
We would have to do that through a rule, Commissioner Flair.
But we can do it through a rule here. I mean, if the
You can ask us to do a rule on that. At the present time, it is my understanding that the governor does not wish to increase fees on any regulatory program. I would have to have justification to go to the Hill and say we need an increase. I've often said we do, but we're actually come out every year. We've come out looking strong enough. You don't want, there's a fine balance for having too much money and not having enough money. It's just that fine balance in there. And as I've told you before, we start July the 1st with a zero balance, and then this money that we have is how we have to maintain the program. You do share some things with other programs. If you're talking about standing alone, I don't believe that this program could do that. Our salaries are paid out of other programs as well. It's like my piece, and Beth Hannah's comes out. The alarm board, the private investigative board, locksmith board, PPS board.
We're in our 10th month, right?
Yeah, we're in March, yes, of the year, yes, sir.
I realize that
9th month.
we have less people renewing their license. Do you recall, as of March last year, like we have 153.29 revenue. Is that in line with what we had last year?
I
Or
don't
you
know.
look?
I'd have to look at the figure. I don't have that in front of me.
Well, the expenditures are gonna be larger.
But we don't see a trend of people coming into the industry. I've noticed looks like we're having more companies applications. But there is that regulation that's been put in place that you have to have those 2,000 hours of experience. So you've got these young people coming in with the experience on the computers, wanting to start their own, and they're not able to because they don't have that experience. So we have prohibited somewhat some people coming into the industry, but half of it actually, but I don't see an increase in a decrease in this profession. Move right along. The legislative updates. I didn't think we had any.
We don't.
Oh, okay, we don't have any regular, I still have to report that. We don't have any regular legislative updates, which is fine with us there too.
Notice some people have came in. Do we
Yes.
have appearances?
Go ahead, go to Exhibit G. Mr. Basby, would you mind coming up? If you would, just give them a few minutes to look over the exhibit. Okay. Thank you.
Bear with us.
Mr. Basby's here his application was denied material misstatement, and he's asked to appeal that, come before you and give his explanation of why he didn't answer the questions on the application, or he said no on the application when it comes to his arrest.
Actually, yeah, I'm here, right here.
Mr. Basby, would you like to go ahead and speak and give an
Yeah, I was-
explanation?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. I was waiting on you all. I don't have the question in front of me or the application, but I remember it was regarding the prior offenses. Have criminal charges ever been placed against you in Tennessee or have criminal charges ever been placed against you in Tennessee or any other state? And I think I answered no, and I should have answered yes. It was a matter of how the question was interpreted. I was under the impression that being charged versus being convicted, and so it was a matter of me just interpreting the question wrong. I've been convicted. I've been charged, but on some things, but not being convicted on some things. And I just read the question wrong, and that's why I'm here to appeal it.
Tell us what those charges are.
I have the paperwork here. One was driving without license. I was charged with it, but it was dropped. I have the paperwork showing that it was dropped. And another one was back in Another one was back in 2006. It was theft by conversion, and I was charged with that, but that was dismissed as well. And I have the paperwork in front of me.
Like to tell us a little bit about, first of all, the driving without a license. Did you actually have a license and not have them with you?
I did have a license on me, and at that morning I was involved in a car accident, and the cops would call someone hit me, and the cops came out, and when they came out, they gave the other person citation and happened to run my license, and it was said driving without license, and they took my license, and matter of fact, the next day I went and got my license. It was a matter of some paperwork. I had filed bankruptcy, and there was some paperwork that did not process correctly, and I had to submit a form, and I got my license back the next day.
So you actually didn't have a valid license when you were charged with that?
I had my license when I was charged with it.
You did?
Yes, ma'am.
You just didn't have them with you? Is that what
No,
you're
I
saying?
had them with me, but I was charged with driving with suspended license, but it was due to a judgment, and I had, like I said, I had a bankruptcy case, and once I submitted the paperwork to them, I thought my attorney had to handle all the paperwork. It was a form that they had, that the Department of Motor Vehicles in Georgia had, it was a form they needed, they did not have, and I submitted to them that form, and I got my license back immediately.
So it was driving on a suspended license,
driving
not without a license?
Right, driving with a suspended license, I'm sorry.
And the theft by conversion, you want to tell us a
Yes,
little
that
bit about
happened in
that?
2006. My former wife had some items purchased in my name, and we had divorced, and she did not pay. It was like from lease to purchase place, and she had items in her possession, and she had not paid for them, and they sent the information to her mailing address. I never received it, and so they took a charge for theft by conversion, and I was charged with it, but we worked it out, and it was dismissed.
You ever pay restitution on that?
There was no restitution charge.
Were these tires or rims?
No, I done been so long. I don't know if they was tires or maybe in both. I've been since 2006. So maybe in both. I don't really remember.
What was the value of the tires or rims? And how much did you pay back? You made 2 payments.
I don't have the information on me. I don't think I know is that it was in my name, and when my wife at that time, we ended up getting divorced, and I got caught up in it, and it was dismissed. I talked with they ended up getting a new manager, and I ended up talking to the new manager, and he dismissed it. Okay, well, okay, see, okay, okay. Oh, no, I had this right in front of me. I didn't realize this, yeah, because they gave me the paperwork. Matter of fact, I got it expunged from my record since I applied for the licensing. It's expunged now. But, yes, it's what it said, made with 15-inch tires, yes, so it's tires.
So you actually have an expungement for that?
Yes, yes. And, you can see here, hold on a second. This is the paperwork for it. Right, and
Okay.
I'm just waiting for it to come in the mail.
Okay, then you need to make sure the office gets it.
Yes, ma'am, I can.
Madam Chairman, may I ask?
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Commissioner. Go ahead.
I was looking on these charges. You were placed on deferred prosecution, and you were apparently ordered to pay restitution, and you only made 2 payments. Why is that?
Toward restitution?
I'm going by what this says here.
Okay. Now, okay, I got the paperwork from, will you ask them again, sir?
You were placed on deferred prosecution. You see that?
Yes.
And you are apparently ordered to pay restitution, but you only made 2 payments. Question is, why did you only make 2 payments?
Again, I was in cahoots with the management from the RIM place, and we worked things out where didn't have to pay anything else.
You say you were in cahoots with, is that what you said?
When I say I was in cahoots, I say I ended up going back because when this took place, I had no way of speaking with the people from the place. I had to go through this because when this was filed, I didn't even know that it even existed. I knew it existed, but I did not know it was taken care of. So after I completed some program, I ended up going back speaking with the manager and working things out, and eventually, you see that he dismissed it. So I end up not paying restitution. Why did I not pay restitution? I don't have an answer for you, but I can tell you that I did speak with the manager at the place, and we was able to work it out.
Can you give us a kind of a ballpark figure on what the total amount was for the tires or rims or whatever they were?
Honestly, I'm not sure. Back then, I was married. My wife wanted it, and I just signed off on it. And we end up getting divorced later. But I don't have the paperwork. If I knew I needed information, I would have brought all the paperwork here for you to see. But I don't have the paperwork for it. If I give you something, I'll just be making it up.
So you clearly, excuse me for interrupting, but you clearly realized that you had been charged.
After the fact, yes.
What do you mean after the fact?
I had moved on with my life. I wasn't charged till what date was I charged? At the time I did not know. They had been sending letters to her address, and so I did not realize I was charged until I was charged. I didn't have no prior warning, anything before being charged. So had I had a prior warning, I would have worked it out prior to being charged. So upon even knowing about this, I did not know until a warrant was taken out for me.
Madam Chairman, if I may, is the expungement on file
It is on file.
and everything in Georgia? What about the DL violations? Has that been expunged?
Sir, if I could, now, Mr. Flair, I apologize to interrupt, but expungements under Tennessee law cannot be part of a governmental record, and we're being recorded on the video, so every time somebody says expungement, we have to have IT go and delete that word or any conversation about
Okay.
it. Since we just cannot keep that record under Tennessee law, only
Okay.
the TBI is allowed to have that. So it would be easier for us if he indicates that it has been that it is in that status that we can just move from that conversation. I apologize to interrupt you, sir.
Oh, I thank you. Can you give me direction, Counselor? Am I correct in saying this board cannot, if anything
Is in that status?
is in that status, therefore we are
Yes.
not allowed to even know about it?
We knew about it, we wouldn't have brought it up.
Well, we currently know about it. It's just whether or not that documentation is final. We probably know about it because we found it off of the actual database, which means it's not in that status yet. But once it's actually in that status, then under Tennessee law, it's as if it never happened. So he is, for all intents and purposes, once any conviction is in that status, then under Tennessee law, they're free to say it never happened.
And that is the case right now. He's free to say that it didn't happen.
If it's in that status, but I don't think it's in that status yet.
Well, didn't he have?
That's right. It's
expungement?
there's an application for that status right now, but it's not final as of this point. If it does become final, then that would be true.
What we're trying to consider here is he made a misstatement on his application. That was the basis for the denial. Commissioner Russo would like to make a motion. I'd like to hear it.
I think I can't make a speech, I have to make a motion.
Okay.
I move that we accept his application with the explanation and the understanding that correctly, and that we accept his explanation.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Valentine. Discussion?
I can't speak for you, sir, but I think I'm following what you're saying, that something happened in 2006, then you were aware of it in 2008. You hired an attorney to handle this for you, and you've since found out that something was done but not done in a correct manner, and you misrepresented that. Okay, just want to make sure I understood that. Okay.
Had a motion, a second. Had discussion. Any further discussion?
Did he mention 5 bankruptcies? No? Okay.
Other discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose?
Aye.
Aye.
Would you do a roll call, please?
We'll do a roll call for this to Jerry Richards. Alan Russo,
Aye.
Minnie Lane,
Abstain.
Walt Valentine,
Aye.
Larry Flair,
Aye.
David Brown,
Aye.
Rick Jones.
Sustain.
You say abstain?
Yes.
Dr. Rich is
Okay.
coming back in. He had to step out.
Dr. Rich, did you hear the motion? The motion was made to grant his license, and we're having to do a roll call vote. So, all right, yes, sir. So what, I'm gonna call your name for you to vote. Dr. Rich? Motion carries.
Correct.
Congratulations,
We had
sir.
2 abstain.
4 yeses, 2 noes, and 2 abstains.
Good luck to you, sir.
What we'll do, we will reopen your application, and you'll be hearing.
My name is Alexander Zemkov.
Just like it's spelled.
Huh?
Just like it's spelled.
Yeah.
If you would give us a few minutes to review your information here.
He's also here for, we denied his application material misstatement for the same reason. He does have his written explanation in there.
Mr. Simkov, would you like to make a statement for our benefit?
Yeah, I apologize. I did this. I understand it is not good for me, but the situation was I was pushed to fill out this Tennessee application to make it faster, and I didn't pay attention on this certain question, which says if I was arrested anywhere and exactly in Tennessee forever. But I didn't read last part of the question about time range. In fact, I believe that this question is all the same as in the application for other states, which doesn't say about time range, or time range was less than lifetime range. That's why I put no. As soon as I figure out, actually through my company, of course, and through your letter, as soon as I figure out I was mistake, it was just mistake. It's not on purpose done. And of course, I sent them my letter about this event situation. So, in fact, I can explain you what happened, why I was arrested. It is, in fact, it was 15 years ago in the June 16 of 2000, year 2000. It was my wedding day. So, yes, I did take some alcohol and was arrested for driving under influence. After that, of course, I passed through all steps, punishment steps. I passed through the financial monetary fine. I paid monetary fine. I passed through the public work. I passed through the DUI, and I don't remember how long, but it's happened every week during, I guess it was months. I signed in as a probation office in Atlanta. So, and another thing, I've got licenses, PI licenses from several states, including South Carolina, Georgia, several times, not only PI, but as a security officer, several licenses. I mean, it was renewed in Georgia, I guess in Texas, California. So actually, I don't. Of course, I'd like to have a Tennessee license too.
I have a question. You say that you disclose,
First, then we're going to have questions and discussion, if you don't mind. Do I have a motion?
Move that his application be approved.
Motion for approval by Commissioner Richards. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Commissioner Rousseau. A discussion?
the question I had was, you said you disclosed this in other applications. Do you have any documentation to show us that you did that?
What do you mean?
Whereas this offense that you didn't disclose on our application in Tennessee, you said you did so in other states.
The states arrested?
If I'm reading this correctly, at the very bottom, it says, "This misstatement was not intentional. I have completed several other applications with multiple states to include Georgia and South Carolina. And I have disclosed on my background." So do you have a copy of that application from Georgia or South Carolina?
Actually, my company has it.
I see.
Yeah, and in the pre-employment file, the company has all my background checks, all my applications, and everything was approved. And as I said, it is not first time the officials checking my file, especially background check and the license board, the same, they check several times on me. And everywhere I was approved and get the licenses.
Are you licensed as a PI in Georgia and South Carolina?
Yes, sir.
Currently active?
Yes, sir.
You have a copy of those licenses with you?
In fact, not right here, but in my car. I can, if you give me 10 minutes, I can bring it.
No, that's fine.
You mentioned also that you were licensed in Texas and California?
It's just from company, not personal licenses, company license.
Did they require you to reveal your arrest record?
As I said, the company, in my pre-employment file, it happened a year ago. They check all my paperwork, including background check too.
Who owns your company?
Veracity Research Company in Texas.
And you're not an owner of that company? You're not an owner of that company?
No, I'm not an owner.
We do have a copy of his Georgia license in the file. A copy of the Georgia license under Veracity Research Company. And the employee, they call it a private detective, and his status is active.
Questions, comments? Have a motion and a second. We've had discussion. I'll call for a vote now. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose?
Aye.
I believe we had all ayes with one opposed. Was that correct? Yes. Okay. Motion carries. Good luck to you, and I'm sure the office will be in touch with you and tell you what to do next.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. learn something.
Madam Chairman, I apologize to the board members, but I need to be excused if that's possible. I've got a flight I've got to catch.
Still have a quorum, so
Thank you.
have a good
All
trip.
right, thank you.
Okay, following the agenda, let's go to our administrative assistant.
If you don't mind,
Oh,
Madam
okay.
Chair, let me just mention one other thing here. We are in the process again of redoing these applications.
Big
Up
red
to
letters.
all the programs are doing. All right, last time we revised was in 2012. I really don't know how else to ask these questions. We ask, have criminal charges ever been placed against you in Tennessee or any other state? We don't say in the last 5 years, last 10 years. We don't ask that. We ask, have you ever been arrested? Have you ever had charges against you?
Clear as you can be.
If yes, what state? If no, go to question number 8. But if you answer yes, we asked were criminal charges filed against you. If you say yes, attach a separate sheet if you need more than 3 on this line. We've got 3 lines. Did you go to court? Because a lot of people, they don't even know they've been arrested, especially if they get a citation. Were the charges dismissed? Were you found guilty of the offenses? If you're found guilty, what was the sentence? We got 3 lines there, or else you attached another sheet. Do you currently have criminal charges pending against you? Are you currently on deferred sentence or on probation? These are yes or no questions. We're trying to make all these applications in our office the same. We try to make the questions the same number, so when we look at it and do reports, we can say question number 6 was not answered, question number 8 was criminal record information. It's the same on all the programs. I really don't know how to make it much more clearer. But this is, you don't see that many in PIs, but in other programs, this is a big thing. Have you ever been arrested? Because what happens is, the company that they're working for is doing a background check and they're getting 7 years to 10 years. We didn't ask that. We asked, have you ever? Were criminal charges brought against you? We don't give, because we see everything the law enforcement sees. I know you all know that. I just don't, I'm open to any suggestion the commission may have about questions. If you have any suggestions on these applications concerning these criminal records, if you would send them to me.
I have one observation. It could not be more clear to me, but with that word ever, could it all be in caps so that only an idiot would miss it?
Oh,
We got it, big, bold, black letters.
Okay, that's good.
Well, I think it's more egregious when they come in here and say, I have other license in other states. They've made applications.
But other states don't do the same kind of background check we do. They have NCIC. Their questions asked, have you ever been convicted?
So we don't ask that.
have NCIC because we can't tell from our records anything except for that they've been charged with something.
What I was pointing out, you've got active licensed investigators in other states, and they cannot fill out an application correctly. I think it's a reflection. They're not being honest. Enough said.
Is it possible to reword that question to make it less ambiguous, to say that including dismissals, whatnot, where I think it's referred to about 2 questions down? Put it all in one question?
Yeah, no,
Have you read the instructions on the criminal history section?
I have.
We don't know how much more clear to make.
Well, I agree. I get it, and we get it, but I'm saying that if we wanted to make it where somebody would read this, and they can't make a case where I didn't understand that correctly, and I thought if it was dismissed, that would not apply, put it all in one sentence in bold caps.
We're looking at taking this criminal information that we have on these applications. I told Beth, I think this is way too wordy. Were you arrested or were you not arrested?
Exactly.
If you were, what happened? We don't, it's like we're writing a book here, and they still don't get it.
Why don't each member pull up that application and review it and then give some feedback?
I would appreciate that if any of you
Please.
have that, please. That would certainly help. Because we're going to streamline these applications. I've got out on the internet and looked at other states, and especially with our IASR members and stuff. Some of them just have a 1 or 2 page application. It covers every program that we do. You just hit the block. And their criminal history questions are very simple. Were you arrested? You were, give us the documentation. It's that simple. So
You're
we're
saying-
looking to streamline the whole application.
You're saying, have you ever been arrested?
Right.
Okay.
That's the question we have on the application. It doesn't say 10 years ago or 7 years ago. It says, have you ever been But we are cognizant of the fact that the companies run the background checks on them, especially in our other professions. They do it more so than in this profession. And they're only getting 7 to 10 years background. So is that something that we may take a look at or want to take a look at and change it in our statute? Are we interested in something that happened 35 years ago? This gentleman that was before you had a DUI. 1. That's all he had on his record.
15 years ago.
15 years ago. Is that something we need to address? I mean, if you have any suggestions, please send them to us. We'll sit down and take a look at
You
it.
might also look at the rules that we drafted about 2 years ago that became effective in 2012. Outline what criminal charges could disqualify an applicant and how long and that sort of thing while you're looking at the arrest questions.
I don't know. I'd have to ask our attorney if we could make these necessary changes of our rule. If we already have a set of rules, can we make the changes? We ought to be able to make them by rule. But that's something we'll talk about with council.
Every member will give you some feedback, maybe.
You just don't see many of these. We usually take care of it in the office. The other programs, that we spend this is what we do. We spend our time on criminal records, the material misstatement.
Whereas if they would just answer it truthfully, it'd go right on through.
Yeah, if he had
'Cause it's not
disclosed that
considered.
DUI or sent us
Yeah.
the dismissal papers on that other charge, this would never have been before you.
Or in other incidents, they don't fill out the application, all they do is sign it.
The
Well, that's their,
companies fill it
the
out for
companies fill it out for them, they're typed, whatever. But my opinion is, you put your name to it, you ought to know what it says.
Might need a disclosure on it too, that it was.
And they're notarized.
There is a disclosure.
Okay, I mean, but if you have any suggestions, any ideas, if you're working with other states, and is there some way that we can change? I want you to take a look, if you can, at the application. I know it doesn't really affect you, but just one application for all our programs. Here's alarms, here's PIs, here's locksmiths. That's what we're looking at doing, just like other states. So we have to streamline the questions, but we have to stay within the statute, of course. And my suggestion, have you ever been arrested? If so, give me the paperwork. That's all I'm asking.
Well, the problem and the reason we changed the language on this app to have criminal charges ever been placed
Yeah.
against you, because all of our other applications still say, have you ever been arrested? Because people that got citations for different things didn't think they were arrested. Even though it was a criminal charge, they didn't have to go to get fingerprinted and booked into jail. They were given a citation, but it's still a criminal charge. So we
Yeah.
changed this in 2012 to see if this application could be easier to follow than our other ones.
Do we ever ask you been fingerprinted?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
on there. Were you
I mean,
fingerprinted
were you
and booked into
fingerprinted?
jail?
I don't know how many people have told me, no, I was not arrested, but I went to see the judge. Well, you didn't get to the judge unless you were fingerprinted, unless there might be some odd way that happens. I mean, there may
People
be.
wanting to be a private investigator.
But
Yeah, well,
for me to sit on a TBI or FBI background check, you had to be fingerprinted. I want to eliminate all that and just come right down to it, have you been arrested? And if I have to, I might put some other little questions in there, but to streamline the applications, we're going to have to do something.
Cody,
Yes, sir?
maybe, I hope I'm not inappropriate. Were these last two applicants, have they taken the test and passed?
they were denied pretty quickly after we got their applications.
So they never-
They'll have to meet all their
They have to meet
requirements.
all the other requirements.
Okay, they haven't taken the test yet, I guess, then, have not.
Well, they may have.
I didn't look at that part on the application. I didn't look at their application.
We
for
got
that.
these apps in and they got their prints done electronically and they were,
As soon as we see it, we stop it right then. We don't even go any further with it. The criminal history is reviewed, and if they say no, we got it, it's just stopped right then.
I don't see any test scores.
So maybe they didn't, I don't know. Oh, I didn't mean to harp on that, just
Okay, moving right along.
takes a lot of our time there, but we'll move right along, Madam Chair. I think actually we're finished with all my parts.
I'll ask Beth Smith Bell, our administrative assistant, if she will handle, I think it's Exhibit I, education.
It's the education report.
Yes.
Okay, the courses that we are reviewing today, I'm gonna list these first, just so we can get all on one page. Terry Davis submitted a list of training he received through Corrections Corporation of America to meet his continuing education requirements. John Holder submitted a Texas A&M Legal Investigation Certification Program. It's an online program. Class and Buck Seminars has submitted a 12-hour online seminar in insurance fraud. PICEU.com has submitted a 2-hour Introduction to Surveillance online class. And TALPI, the Tennessee Association of Licensed Private Investigators, submitted their Monday, May the 11th meeting with Congresswoman Diane Black for 1 hour, and they have submitted a 12-hour continuing education program they're going to be offering Friday, October 2nd, and Saturday, October the 3rd here in Nashville. The recommendation this morning during the meeting was to approve Mr. Davis and send him a letter indicating that we were going to accept this year, but more documentation would be required if he expected this to be accepted again. The recommendation was to approve the Texas A&M Legal Investigation Certification Program. The recommendation was to approve Class and Buck Seminars, to approve the PEICEU.com, to approve the 1 hour for TALPI's lunch meeting held May the 11th, to approve the speakers for the session at the 2015 seminar scheduled for October 2nd and 3rd, and Commission Member Valentine is going to make a request on behalf of TALPI as a separate motion after we approve these. Is that correct?
That's right.
Does anybody on the Education Committee have any other comments or suggestions?
Move we approve them as recommended.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Rich, second by Commissioner Russo. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. And now
Now,
turn
Walt,
to,
on behalf of the Tennessee Association of Licensed Private Investigators,
I recognize here that we approved the 1 hour for the meeting last Monday, so we're actually approving it after it had happened. And they're having a problem with speakers who cancel at the last minute or get approved at the last minute. So I make a motion that we consider for approval their meetings when they have a speaker that we would recognize
after
after
the session.
the session has occurred. Yes.
Do we have a timeline? I mean, again,
then-
this is in the motion right now, so.
Well, they should make this a timely request within a reasonable period of time, which I guess it would be a week.
I think I'm just a little confused there. Is the motion for us to just blanket accept the speakers?
If we approve their speaker, and their resume.
It's different from what we're doing now then.
What we're doing now is they're supposed to send that in prior to the
The
speaker.
lunch meeting.
Oh, so you're asking us to approve it after they've had the meeting,
Yes,
which means you're automatically approving the speaker.
yes. Which we're
Didn't you
doing
already-
now.
Didn't you already vote on this before? Hadn't this already been?
The way they left it before was, as long as they get the speaker bio to the commission office prior to the lunch meeting, it can be credited for 1 hour of continuing ed.
So you're
But
wanting this to change that?
Yes, what I'm trying to do is
And we
amend
ask them to
this.
get their speaker bio to us within 1 day of the lunch meeting, or by Friday of that week.
Well, I think what he's saying.
That would be
that
fine.
We're gonna have to have the speaker, and they're automatically approve Talpe's speakers.
They'd have to come before the commission for approval, just like they do now.
But they've already be spoken.
Yes,
Well, again, if they had a cancellation and didn't have a speaker, or had a speaker that they didn't feel was accreditable for a 1 hour continuing ed, they wouldn't submit it at all.
exactly.
Because they don't want credit for every single meeting. It's just when they have a recognized speaker
Right.
for the 1 hour.
So why wouldn't they do it just as they done it now?
Because they submit things, and then within an hour of them submitting it, and we've reviewed it and said, yeah, okay, the speaker cancels. It happens a lot.
It don't happen every time.
No, it doesn't happen every time.
So what would be the problem with bringing it before, just like they did this one? If
Again,
that
we approve
happened.
these in-house. The only reason we bring them to you is just so you'll know what they submitted. Because the way it's left now, if they get the speaker bio to our office before the lunch meeting, they can get credit for it.
We're approving it after the meeting.
You really don't, and I explained to you this morning, they're on your approved provider list.
Yes.
This is more of a courtesy, but y'all have been very, the 1 hour seminars were hard to get y'all to approve in the first place, and you requested that they provide their speaker bios before their lunch meetings in order to get credit. As a group, you requested that, so.
Somebody, if the speaker canceled out and you got another speaker, that speaker's already been approved, is that correct?
First one,
Yes.
No, but what about the second one?
again.
They would have to pick them from the approved list, right?
Well, they had a list for a while. They were gonna do that and come up with all their speakers for the next year and go ahead and just get them approved and then rotate them in and out, but they've not been able to accomplish that. And again, they're on your recognized providers for their annual seminars. We only request that they give us all their information early so that we can get it on our approved course list and let our licensees know that there's a seminar coming up. And so y'all will know what's going on.
If they're already on their approved list, why are we discussing this?
Well, again,
You know,
you were
I-
very stipulative about their 1 hour sessions and how they had to get speaker
Each
bios
one-
to us in
each
advance.
of us were, yes.
Why, I'm just asking why, if they're on their approved list, why we could not accept whomever their speaker was. And in this discussion. If you got a speaker that you're gonna have for 12 hours or 8 hours versus one, what's the difference? You've already approved blanket Talpe. They can do it, we're gonna accept it. It's just we had that one little caveat, that 1 hour thing. I'm asking you to take a look at that, is that necessary? To alleviate this problem.
Right.
We understand, because we get calls, we don't have a speaker, can you come?
And we've had changes right in the middle of a seminar.
Yeah, right, okay, that's
Yeah.
right. But if the whole association's approved, that's where we do the other programs anyway, why do we have this discussion with their speakers? And if we do see a problem, when we do get a complaint, then we can address it in a different way
Exactly.
from the speakers.
with
So
regulation.
we just need to eliminate the prior notification.
Right, if you got an approval, you have an approval.
I move we eliminate the prior notification clause in our agreement with Talpe.
And I'll second it.
We had a motion on
Seconded
the
that.
floor.
Not
We need to
Brown.
withdraw that
I
motion.
withdraw the previous motion
Okay, now your motion is,
to eliminate the prior notification request for Talpi,
Guest speakers.
for guest speakers on the 1 hour certification.
Second it.
okay, it's motion. Valentine, second by Commissioner Jones. Okay,
Hard name to remember.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
All right, now, let me make sure I understand this. Talpies, the Tennessee Association of Licensed Private Investigators has a blanket approval. We will accept their speakers and their certificates for the people who attend their seminar. Might help there, Mr. Valentine.
Thank you.
Being overly cautious, which is good.
That's fine.
And I'd like to address, when I'm hearing something from this side and this side, and I apologize if I'm not realizing who second or who made the motion. If you would speak up and say, Commissioner Jones, I second, it would help, because their records need to be correct.
I usually ask if I didn't know.
Yeah, but we have the advantage, we can see who's talking.
Yeah, and I'm not. Those voices sound alike sometimes. Okay, next.
Who, Mr. Brown and Mr. Jones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Round 11.
Don't be moving
We
on
have
me.
common names too.
Okay, next, we have unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business?
Yes, we want to address the exam item review that we need. I've talked to you at the last meeting, if I'm not mistaken. We have quite a few people that are failing these exams. Now, I don't mean just one time, I mean 2 or 3 times they're failing these exams. Already authorized us to do this, but I'm just giving you some history here of what we need. We want to sit down and have another item review. We want to find out, if we can, what the problem is. Are they not studying? Or is the exam maybe too difficult? Or we have questions on there that we feel that may not be appropriate? So we have to be real careful with that because of the sunshine law. We get more than, we put 2 commission members together, it must be a public meeting. So that's what we're going to.
Well, my suggestion is, and I've already contacted PSI. I already have them, they have pulled out all the questions that are not performing well. That's already been done.
Good.
They're ready to review. Most of them are on the practical knowledge questions from the book, The Idiot's Guide to Private Investigating. There's very few laws and rules questions, except for a lot of people miss the same one over and over. But rather than review everything on the exam, I contacted PSI and said, can we get a real quick handle on the questions that everybody seems to be getting wrong? And maybe we can figure out why. We're gonna do a telephone item review. Minnie has already indicated, and the commission has already approved Minnie to participate. The last time we did this, I asked the association chairs to participate, but only one of them called in. So I would like your permission to get our 2 certified trainers, Stuart Bain and Robert Duhame, to participate with Minnie and Cody and I in a teleconference call to look at these questions that aren't performing and either reword them or get rid of them and put some new questions in there. But before we could do that, we really needed your approval.
The Education Committee doesn't need to look at the test.
Yeah. It becomes a public meeting if more than one of you are meeting together, even on a teleconference.
What if you emailed it to us?
There's secure questions. We can't do that. The only way to really work with this company, they will send you, it's a go-to meeting. All your documents are in this meeting, okay? You call in, go on your computer, And they have it all written out where you look at this question, you look at the answer, you write your notes on the question on the computer while you're doing this. And it's reviewed that way, and that way their questions are secure because you have to have the login information to get on the GoToMeeting site.
Now, that's what we said, but are there other commission members that wanted to participate? If there are, we were gonna have to find some other way to do this.
No, I was new in the commission when this lady was here last year, and she was talking about shutter speeds for lenses. I'd never read the book before, because I wasn't required to when I got my license. I went back and read the book. I didn't see where that question or that issue was raised in that book. That guy was a camera wizard, but I didn't see that. But she was pointing out, they're talking about lens speeds or filters or whatever.
Well, that's the kind of questions we're gonna be trying to get rid of.
I didn't see it in the book. I thought the book, if you read the book, you should be able to pass that test.
You
Well,
should.
we think the questions were worded, and again, they were written by a test development company who doesn't practice private investigations. And I just think that's why we only asked for the questions that were really, we don't want to make it too easy, but we don't want to fix it where nobody can pass it either.
Well, not only that, that book, The Idiot's Guide to Private Investigations, is nationwide. We gotta make sure the questions that we pull out of there is gonna be specific for Tennessee.
Well, I thought that was a good guide for somebody that even has experienced it. I mean, it refreshed me in reading it.
We got a lot of
I think it's a
positive
good
comments
book.
about that book. We
Yeah,
did.
after people complain about the title, they call us back and say, you know, that really was a good book. We reviewed how many, 15 books when we picked that one about 5 years ago. But anyway, what they've done is pull out the test questions that are not performing well at all. And we're gonna start with those, which should make it only about an hour, hour and a half session.
I think that's a good plan.
Need a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we include in the webinar the two trainers for the
By Commissioner Russo, second by Commissioner Rich. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All we had, Madam Chair.
Okay, I'll go on to continuing education participation form. Did anyone sign up? Okay. Could I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So move.
Motion by Commissioner Valentine to adjourn, and second by Commissioner
But may I,
Rich.
before we
Oh,
take a
okay.
vote, may I say something?
Certainly.
I'd like to apologize to the staff and my fellow commissioners for leaving the room abruptly earlier. I had no choice, and I don't feel it's appropriate to explain why, but I just ask your forgiveness.
not necessary, but thank you.
Commissioner Jones will second that last motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Meeting is adjourned. Thanks.
That Rocky Top, that's what I
That's not me.
Rocky Top. You don't know. We know it's